we can all learn something about getting our homes less vulnerable to wildfire, stuff we can do on our own, and stuff that if we do it, will actually make a difference in terms of lowering your insurance, and things that we can do that were also actions that we can take, that we can put the hours that we spend into those actions and watching this presentation in the Firewise reporting form, and that'll keep us a Firewise community, which is something we've all worked very hard for. And it's also something that gives us a discount on insurance. So I'm just going to give a little talk tonight about home hardening. And I'm just going to talk about some basic things, what we can do, and some resources. But the most important thing we want to start off with is, I know that Jaspreet has the link. There's the Firewise reporting link. Hopefully you can put that in the chat. So that means that everything we're doing tonight, every minute you spend watching this, you should report as an educational activity to keep our Firewise designation. So as we move on, I'm going to let the slides tell me what to say. Aha! So we are a Firewise community. And like I said, attending tonight's seminar will help it keep that way. So what can we do to help our home survive? Here's the problem that we have in Topanga especially. What we have is Topanga is usually a wind-driven fire. Usually comes in the fall, in the Santa Ana winds. What happens is there'll be a fire somewhere else. It'll start somewhere, like the Woolsey fire started up in the Santa Susana Mountains. It catches, the wind blows it towards the ocean because the winds come, go from the inland to the ocean on the Santa Ana day. And they blow embers all over the place. So the embers are like a million little matches miles ahead of the flames. So it's a million matches coming at you and your house. So what happens is your house doesn't really get taken out by a big tree that's on fire, or it doesn't get taken out by another house. The first houses that get taken out just get taken out by embers. Here's a perfect example of that. This is up in Lake Tahoe. I mean, if you look at it, there's a burning house, but look at these trees. These trees are standing. This house got hit by embers. It lit on fire and it scorched the trees. So once again, the thing we really have to look at where we are is what we can do to make our house more ember resistant. Here's another perfect example. This is a really strange fire that happened in 22 in Laguna. They just had a really weird wind condition. There was some little grass fire down in the hill below these houses, blew a bunch of embers into it. And once again, you can see the vegetation, that's all fine. It's the embers that hit the house where the house was vulnerable. Embers got inside the house and burned it from the inside out. So we have science that shows us this, and shows us what we can do to prevent this kind of thing from happening. This is the Insurance Institute for Business and Home Safety Research Center in South Carolina. We had a guy named Steve Quarles who used to run this organization, run the research there. He came by to Topanga and gave us some tips, which we put in a video. But basically what they'll do is they have this research lab where they'll fire a bunch of embers at a house, and they'll make these model houses and see how they react. So here's a perfect example. This house had wood shake shingles, wood mulch. This house had more of a cement board shingles, and it had gravel mulch. So what happens after 10 minutes of embers? So flinging these embers at that house, you get that after 10 minutes. So what that leads us to is this concept called the home ignition zone. Now, the home ignition zone is just this area right around your house where you have these vulnerabilities. I'm going to make a pitch at the end of this for you to go to the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains and get your home ignition zone evaluation appointment. It's a free appointment where they will come by your house and give you tips on what you can do to make it less vulnerable. I was going to have Pauline join us, but she had to go off to a wedding tonight, so I'm filling in for her. What they do is they have evaluators. They'll come out, they'll look at the house. They have some availability, I think, on Thursday, and she told me. So there you go. Anyway, here we are. Here's what we look at. First, you look at the house from the top of the roof, the chimney, to the eaves. And what do you see? Here's an example. This is Steve Quarles, the guy who ran that facility that we were talking about. And he's looking at a house, kind of a typical house in Topanga. But as you can see, the one thing that's kind of dangerous about it is all this leaf litter that's on the roof here. And you've got leaf litter and you've got it next to a wood shake shingle, which isn't necessarily a problem if there's nothing around it. But if there's litter next to a wood shake shingle, then that can light it on fire. The whole idea about this ember ignition is that it's never the big boards that light first when you start a campfire. You always just need little weeds and little things like that. So imagine how you'd make a campfire, and then imagine that kind of stuff around your house. So that's a perfect example right there. This stuff that's on the roof didn't get cleaned. Another problem that we have, a vulnerability, are these tile roofs, where if it's not in repair, embers can get in underneath the tiles and then take out the roof. Here's an example of some people who put some stops in there to prevent that from happening. Here's also some products you can get that also limit the ability of embers to get into your tile roof. Another problem that we have in Topanga, especially with the oaks, isn't really so much the oak trees themselves, even if they're over the house, if there's clearance. Oaks are like Susan said, they're very good fire. You know, they're from here. They're designed for this place. Sometimes they can actually catch embers. Clark Stevens at the RCD will tell you that he thinks oaks are great because they can be like catcher's mitts around your house. But the one problem they do have, if you're not taking care of them, is they drop a lot of leaves. And if those leaves get into your gutter, then you have a fire. The fire gets underneath your roof and it takes out your house. Perfect example of this. Now, this is one of these, this is a nice picture of a really crappy gutter guard that somebody put on that's more of a problem than a help. How do you fix it? You can get gutter guards like this. I have these on my house. They're called Leafs Out. There's other companies that make them, but this is just one of them. They're fine metal mesh screen. And what happens is they get there and they don't allow any leaves to get into your gutter. And the fact is, in terms of maintenance, you can go up there and try and clean your gutters out every month or so. You know, get on a ladder. You're really better off if you can. I put these on about 4 years ago, and I've never even messed with my gutters after that. Another thing we have is birds' nests. And birds' nests, they're there. They're our buddies. They are. You don't really want to get rid of them at the wrong time, but when it is the right time, and I think the nesting season ends in the fall. I think in the fall. Double check, but you know, it's always a good idea once the birds have flown to remove the nests. So now the second part of this process is we'll go from the eaves to the foundation and look at vulnerabilities there. One big vulnerability in houses are gable vents. This vent doesn't have much of a screen behind it, so that means that embers can just fly into this place and burn it from the inside out. There was kind of a famous house up on the end of Malibu Canyon. It was like a big castle, kind of a cheesy castle kind of a house. And there was a fire up there because there's always a lot of fires in that area because of the way the wind blows through the canyon. And fire department got there, they put out the fire, they moved on, and after they left, the house burned out completely from the inside because it got in the gable vents. So how do you fix something like that? Oh, sorry, here's another example of what happens from the inside at that research laboratory. Through a gable vent, you can see they fire embers at it, gets inside your house, your attic. Another vulnerability is floor vents. This has 1/4 inch mesh. 1/4 inch mesh is too big. You need smaller mesh to keep the embers out. One way you can fix the gable vents is you can buy a fancy brand guard gable vent, which brand guard vents actually trap the embers inside these little channels. I mean, you have to install them though, so it's a deal. Another less expensive way is getting this product called Quick Mesh. It's at Home Depot and Lowe's. Basically, it's a mesh that you can cut and then place over your existing vents. It's 1/8 inch and it prevents the embers from getting in. If you want to do this on a do-it-yourself basis, please wear gloves because this stuff will really slice up your hands. But it's a really inexpensive way to make your home less vulnerable on your vents. And then, like this nice stock photo man is doing, he is sealing up his vents, or he's sealing up all the cracks around his house with caulking. That's another important thing, is you don't want to have any gaps around your windows or other places that embers can get into. I mean, imagine it. Just imagine once again, just flinging a million matches at your house. Another thing that's important is sealing garage doors. Garage doors sometimes have, gaps. You can buy these garage door seals. Very important. So now, the next place we go is this new thing that they're calling Zone Zero. And you're going to hear a lot more about Zone Zero in the coming years if you haven't already heard it already. It's really, what they're finding is the most important part of the house is this first 5 feet, the house and the first 5 feet around it. A lot of times people look and they'll go, God, but my house is great, but that neighbor's tree over there. No, it's not the neighbor's tree. What they found, the neighbor's tree is the neighbor's tree. What they found is the thing that you got to do to make your house less vulnerable is concentrate first and foremost on this first 5 feet. And there are going to be some laws, the regulations that are coming down the pike that are going to require some of this stuff that I'm talking about now. The stuff that I'm talking about now in Zone Zero and the stuff we've been talking about in this talk are also part of this initiative that Joel, the insurance guy, was talking about, where you can get a discount if you do these steps. So here's my guy again, good old Steve Quarles. I kind of think of him as the Pete Townsend of home hardening. There's also Jack Smith, who's like the Paul McCartney, and there's Pat Derland, who would be like the Mick Jagger. No, anyway. But I'm getting off on my tangent here. So Steve's talking about this leafy thing that's right next to this single pane door in this house, and it looks like it's all nice and green, but boy, you do not want anything like this. You don't want anything that's growing within the first 5 feet of your house, especially because if you look down at the bottom, it looks all green. There's a bunch of leaf litter. Embers would hit that. They'd catch the leaf litter. They would take the thing straight up to underneath the eaves, break these windows, and this house would be lost. And there's a nice little bird's nest over there too. The birds wouldn't be very happy. Another thing you got to look at in the first 5 feet is wood mulch. Do you have any wood mulch? These people look like they've got some nice pavers there, but look at that. Underneath there, that bump out, that's wood mulch. You do not want any wood mulch around the first 5 feet of your house. It's got to be gravel or rock. That bad. Here's what happens with wood mulch. This is just a typical example. It'll burn, and you can have it far away from your house, but you just can't have it right up against your house like that burnt out house over there. And at the bottom of your house, the other thing that's important is having this 4 to 6 inches of non-flammable stuff. So your wood siding shouldn't meet the ground if possible. You can find a non-combustible material, metal flashing, fiber cement board. That's another important thing. Here's an example of stuff you can put around the first 5 feet of your house. Some gravel. Let's see. Here's another example of that. Here's an example of some really nice pavers that you can get. And these people do have a couple little plants there, but they're inside pots. It's not really I don't think that's really gonna do anything. Here's my house. Same deal. Nice fire stick there. Same thing though. Got the pavers around it. Just got that first zone that doesn't have anything on it. Here's what you don't want. Here's a wood deck, a bunch of flammable stuff. Now with this wood deck, you don't have to replace it with some kind of non-flammable thing, because this is a board. Remember, if an ember lands on that, it's probably just going to scorch it. What you have to worry about is where the board meets the house. You want to have that metal flashing right there. There's another great example of how houses get taken out by decks, by people storing all the crap underneath them. Embers hit that stuff, goes up into the deck, and there we go. This is a better solution, gravel. This is a better solution, gravel with some mesh. Another vulnerability that people don't think about is wood fences. If you have a wood fence that starts at your house and goes out into your yard, just consider it to be part of your house. That fence is part of your house, because what will happen is the fire will start in the fence and it'll just burn right into your house. So the fence is an extension of your house. So how do you stop that from being a problem? The last few feet, you put something metal. You break the continuity. Although this technically, if you see the top of the roof there, this really should be 5 feet from the roof line. So it should really be more like over here. But the point is, you have the wood fence. Something is breaking it up, and that's what that metal is for. So now we've gone through the first 5 feet. We don't want to have anything there. We don't want to have it, really, ideally, no veg at all. Ideally, non-flammable gravel or pavers or something. Now we go out to the thing called Zone 1, which is the 5 feet to 30 feet. Sometimes we have problems because you have neighbors that have fences. And the only thing we can encourage people to do is just have this conversation with their neighbors. And it's one of those things where it just has to be a community for it to really work. But we all have to start on our own and lead by example. This is an example of how these overlapping zones work. And then we have Zone 2. This is the beyond 30 feet, which is just basically, I think the most important thing is that's where you want to keep your wood piles. That's where you want to keep your outbuildings. I think Joel said that if you have an outbuilding that's closer than 30 feet to your house, you're not going to get that discount that applies to the houses that are in compliance. Insurance discount. So this is kind of just an example of what that is. And then we get to the lessons learned. Does this stuff work, right? And does it work? Yeah. Here's an interesting example. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say there's 6 houses in this picture. This is Malibu Park before the Woolsey fire. The Malibu Park is that neighborhood where Malibu High School is, kind of behind Zuma up on the hill. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses in this picture. 2 of these houses you're going to see were lost. Can you guess which ones they are? Do you think it might be this one with a little tree here and all this space here? Or maybe this one with all this space around it? Or this one? Or this one? Or is it this one that has completely covered? Or this one where you can't even see anything? Ta-da! That one and that one. You can see where the fire came up on this guy's house, person's house. Once again, boom, boom. Boom, boom. So it's not this random thing. It's not this. We weren't spared by the good graces of somebody. These are just things that people do and choices people make, and it makes a difference whether your house survives or not in these kind of fires. And here's a really stark example of that, which is in Lahaina. Sorry, I thought I was going to go there. Here's another really stark example of that. This is Paradise. Once again, what happened? No trees did this. Embers hit these places, got some vulnerable places, and then they all took each other out. That's Lahaina, which is brutal. But look at the difference. This guy, this house, they put a new roof on it. There was nothing around it. It got pelted by embers probably, but like everything else, but it survived. They did a post-mortem fire thing in Waldo Canyon, which is a fire in Colorado. And they had actually had this, there's kind of similar to what we have. There's another program called Fire Adapted Communities. Once again, it's just residents who just educate themselves and do common sense measures. And they had a fire that hit one of these fire adapted communities, as well as other communities in the area. What did they find? They achieved an 82% save rate. $300,000 was spent on mitigation and $77 million in losses were avoided. But it's got to work at the community and the individual level. Here's where you can take some information down. These are 3 of my favorite websites. I'm going to give you a minute to just get that. Our Topanga County NTCFSC is our website. We have links to all sorts of things there. Defensible Space is something that the RCD is developing, which is a really great resource. RCD SMM is where you can go and you can learn about these things. They also have these amazing videos that they've come up with. And that's also the place where you can request a home ignition zone evaluation. So it leads us to your mission for tonight. Here's your to-do list. First of all, report your time attending tonight's seminar. You can go to onetopanga.com, and Stacy, thank you, and Carrie, thank you for putting that link together. They've got a link now where you just go to local fire prevention resources, and you can find the RCD link where you can get the home ignition zone. You can see the videos. You can find the link, especially the FireWise reporting link, that you can make sure that you're in the right area, you're within our FireWise community, and then you can say, I spent a half an hour or maybe 40 minutes at an educational seminar tonight at the end of a very, very long town council meeting, and was able to get some information. And by doing that, you're contributing to the hours that we need to contribute every year as a community to keep this FireWise designation. And it does lower your insurance rates if you're on the California Fair Plan. So I think that's my last slide. So, I mean, if anyone wants to open it up to questions or anything like that, I'm happy to do it. If you guys want to, be the traffic cops, Carrie or Stacy, or or take stuffed questions in the chat, I'm here.
I have a very quick question. I have the wooden fences that are very close to our house on both sides. We have a narrow property. And someone suggested that it's like 4 to 5 feet, somewhere in that range. Someone had suggested putting up those metal sheets, like they use on the tops of, I forget what they're called, that they use on tops of horse stalls and stuff, those metal. Yeah. And putting those, along, up against those wooden fences, because they're attached to a chain link. We have the chain link on our side and the wood is attached. Is that a good idea? Yeah,
I've actually heard there's some people in Australia who make these products, and I think I have a link to the product on our website. They're actually products that are these kind of fences that exactly do what you're talking about. They resist the heat, and I think that's a really viable thing. It's it's not cheap, but the manufactured products aren't cheap, but that's a good solution if you really want to, if you've got a vulnerability, you've got a neighbor right next to you. Absolutely. Roger?
Ryan, great. That's great. This was great. Really, I commend you. It's really, really well done. Well done.
Thank you.
I wanted 2 things that are not mentioned very often. One is I'm a big proponent of the product Barricade. I don't know if you're familiar with Barricade at all.
I am.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I have a few gallons that I leave outside my house in case of fire, and in case I'm here, and being able to spray down the house, and hopefully that'll help. The second thing is that's not really talked about often, and I do talk to Drew about it a lot, and that is different kinds of fires do different kinds of things. House fires are one thing, wind-driven fires are something else, where the fires come from, the northeast to the southwest, means a lot. If you live in Topanga and the fire is west of us, chances are the fire is not going to come back towards us if the conditions are correct. But it should be talked about a little bit more for people's education. Different kinds of fires require different kinds of responses.
Yeah, I know. I agree 100%. As far as the barricade is concerned, I used to have barricade, and I did some tests with it. Fire as a fire safe council, we think that that's something you might want to entertain after you've done everything else. In other words, all the home hardening stuff is the most important stuff. And a lot of the times, what if you do the home hardening, it means that if you happen to not be in the canyon when this thing happens, your house is already way better off. So
Right.
that I've seen people use barricade as a way to not do the stuff they have to do, and then they're trying to spray this stuff on in 60-mile-an-hour winds, and while they really should be evacuating. So it's something to consider. I really think that everything that we recommend, if you want to do anything else, fine, but do this stuff first. As far as the embers are concerned, you're right. I mean, a home fire on a not Santa Ana wind day is something the fire department can deal with, and they deal with all the time. I think the main thing we have to really wrap our heads around is that the real danger to us in Topanga are wind-driven fires. So that's the time when we get those kind of days, and we get a couple weeks a year, in the fall. We get those days. That's when we really have to be vigilant. That's when we have to do things like don't do your brush clearance on those days. Don't do your outdoor welding art project on that day. Stuff like that. And the embers, they can come from any direction. And the thing is, the problem with the embers is that once it takes a house down, then all of a sudden it doesn't become a wildfire anymore. It's an urban inferno, because all of a sudden you get a house that has all sorts of toxic, really volatile stuff in it that can lead the things into the situations like you have in Paradise and whatever. So the more everybody does to individually make their homes less vulnerable, it means it makes the whole neighborhood less vulnerable. It means a wildfire can just come and go. These fire fronts move in the wild. The kind of fires we get here, they come through in like a half an hour or something. The fire front's gone. It's just that if it catches your house, then all of a sudden, then you've got this big toxic bomb. Then that's the problem. So we all owe it to ourselves to do what we can to make our neighborhood and also to make the community and the nature we live in safer. Fact is, these houses that we've got can take these fires that would normally blow away, will just decimate the natural environment, and all those lovely little creatures and those dudes that we love so much are really screwed. So, I think for me, I look at it like, if you're going to live here, you got to be responsible. And this is part of that.
Great.
Yeah, and Ryan and Roger, I wanted to chime in actually on that barricade product and just the chemical band-aids in general. I mean, first of all, I have environmental concerns and human health concerns about them. I'm curious as to what's in barricade, but relying on that, thinking it's going to save you, nothing replaces mechanical, physical barriers and interventions and making your home like literally made of fireproof type materials. So, Roger, I was a little surprised by that question, but I think it's good that you brought it up, because I think a lot of people would like nothing more than to be able to slap a chemical on and call it a day. But yeah, I think it's dangerous to do that, both from an advocacy standpoint and an environmental standpoint. But go ahead.
No, I would not say that that it is a chemical product. According to what I was told, and also what I actually saw, is that it's made from baby diapers, and I don't think there are any chemicals in it. I may be wrong.
Fair enough. I'll look into it further, but just in general, I'm just addressing the mindset of a chemical, sort of like a Band-Aid that you can apply on it. There's no shortcut. You've got
Well,
to.
That's
what Ryan said. I think what Ryan said was correct. You don't do this in place of something else. You do the home hardening first, and then if you want barricade or another product that is not chemicals, we use that as well.
Well, that's the thing. When we decided to educate ourselves, I mean, we've been a fire safe council since 2010, actually. you know, and one of the first things we did is we took a science-based approach, and that's when we met Steve Carls from the IBHS, who had that research lab. He can tell you about stuff that he knows works, and then you ask him about other stuff. He goes, well, you know, maybe, but there's no definitive research on it. You know, there's no definitive thing that, you know, whereas he can say for sure, if you do this, if you clear the first 5 feet, if you have this zone, you do all this stuff, there's consensus that that stuff works. So that's the most important thing to do, is do the stuff that people know that works. And then, you know, after that, you know, then
At that point, it's the luck of the draw.
yeah, that's right. And, you know, I mean, some people, look, there's a lot of people promoting these you know, these sprinkler systems. Once again, okay, hopefully you do it with your own water, because I don't really think it's a good idea for you to take everyone else's water down and, you know, sprinkling your house. But at the same time, do it after you've done everything else on this list. That's the most important thing, because this is the stuff that people know works. You know, what happens to a house, you know, in a kind of a situation where you got the thing wet, you get the kind of heat that we get in these fires, that house that'll dry up in a second, that water you threw on your roof. You know, it's not going to do it. What's going to do it are the things that we're talking about. And the other thing that's really important is that, you know, it's what everyone's saying about the new shelter in place designation. I mean, the fact is that the safest place, if you're really caught here, you don't want to get out on the road and burn up. So if you're really caught here and this thing comes up on you by surprise and you don't have time to get out, you're going to have to stay in your house. Now, do you want to stay in a house that's vulnerable because you didn't do the dumb stuff like just get rid of some veg around your house and do your screens? You're going to be in a way more vulnerable situation. So in a way, this home hardening is also it's a survival thing too. I mean, you have to think of it like that.
Mm-hmm.
32 minutes, people. That's 32 minutes of quality time to report on the Firewise reporting link and counting.
Right. No, yeah, this is great. Really great.
Okay, any more questions, or how are we? Oh, Susan Nisman, my mentor. Susan was the one who was so helpful to us when we were getting the Fire Safe Council up and running. She invited us to the committees that she had created along with Zeb. And Susan, I can't thank you enough for all the help that you've done and everything you've done for our community for so many years.
Well, Ryan, enough of that. I'm kind of over the top now, you know. So I just really wanted to thank you and recognize Beth as well for everything that you guys have done in terms of bringing this constantly in this continuity of information, science-based, protecting our environment at the same time, being really wise about how we can protect our individual properties while protecting our neighborhoods and our community at the same time. You have my greatest respect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And everybody, pay attention, sign up, become Firewise, do all that stuff.
Yeah, get that home ignition zone evaluation from the RCD. They're free. The people will come to your house for free, and they'll tell you what to do. RCD is doing an amazing job. They've kind of picked up where we left off at the Fire Safe Council. They've got people on staff. They're amazing. They've got videos.
As long as you guys are still, obviously still communicating and feeding each other with all of the right information, I think we're going to, you know, everybody understands the sensitivity to not using, you know, bad chemicals, using the right stuff. And I think, you know, you're getting it down to a great science. Of course, that science keeps changing, but, you know, you're keeping up with it. And I appreciate it so much, as I think the entire community does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely excellent. And I agree with everything you just said, Susan. So yay, got that on tape. Ryan, quick question with the home ignition zone evaluations. Since they are so science-backed and, you know, a lot of professional sort of review and materials go into reviewing them, is this something you could submit to an insurance company and be like, we've had a review by the RCD?
Well, here's a really good example of that. You know, one of the things I did, and this is kind of relates to the conversation we had earlier. One of the things I did is I had my insurance agent. I found out I could get a discount on my besides, okay, you get a discount because we're a Firewise community, right? But you also get a discount if you've done these things that Joel talked about. And so I called up my insurance agent, and he goes, "Oh, I didn't know about that." And then I submitted the form, and you have to kind of, Max Kramer would know this, but some insurance agents know this. So I was able to get a guy who's a private contractor who does evaluations for the California Fair Plan. And he said he came out to my house and he looked around and he goes, "Oh, this is great. Oh yeah, you're great, man. You're fine. You'll get the discount." He goes, "Oh, let me tell you about this place I saw yesterday. What a disaster. It was in Malibu. It was a mess. And the California Fair Plan had canceled their insurance. And the guy was trying to say, 'Hey man, I want my insurance.' And the guy the inspector went to this guy's house and said, 'Sorry, you're never going to get insurance if you don't do this stuff.'" So I think that the insurance companies and even the Fair Plan are just more hardcore about that. So I would say, yeah, get the RCD to come out, have them do that kind of thing, and then call your insurance agent and say, "Hey, these guys came out, they told me to do this stuff. I did this stuff. What can we do? Can we get a better deal?"
Yeah. No, it's interesting. Two things I want to follow up on. People need to know this. Like the Fair Plan can cancel you now. Like, the insurer of last resort. Well,
that's what I heard. I know that was kind of news to me.
Right.
But that's what I heard from this guy is if you but you have to kind of really, from what
Really
what he told me, you have to be kind of not compliant,
Right. But a lot of people aren't. That said, Ryan, let me ask you this. Am I allowed to ask you, and feel free to answer or not answer, but are you on a private insurer or are you on the Fair Plan?
No, I'm on the Fair Plan, but I have a wraparound with Farmers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the distinction that Joel made during his presentation was that you theoretically can get all these discounts, but with the Fair Plan, it's kind of all or nothing. You do everything or else you don't get anything. But you're saying, I guess, with your wraparound insurance.
Well, you get Fair Plan. Fair Plan is just fire, right?
Right.
If you don't live in a Firewise community, you're not going to get that discount. You're just paying the full rate. And if you don't do the stuff around your house that he was talking about, you don't get that discount. So you can get the Fair Plan, but if you're part of a Firewise community, you get a deal. And if if you do the zones zero kind of stuff, you get a deal. And then but you still have to, like Joel said, you still have to have a wraparound for if someone falls down on your front door, or or if
That's
there's
homeowners. That's
or whatever.
homeowners insurance. It's
Right.
separate. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay.
And also, just for my experience, Fair Plan, without even notifying me, and now I'm going through the process of seeing how many of my things, count for a discount, raised my insurance 25% this year.
Mhm.
And Susan, you're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
Honest to God, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So, I mean, they're raising it, but, I think it's because they can't get those, they don't have all of those supports from the what do they call? They're not the reinsurers or whatever they are,
right.
because those have left town.
So
Anyway.
you'll like this, Susan. This is right up your alley. Look at Adam Schiff's bill, the insurer bill. It was
I was interested in that, so I'll be looking at that. Yeah.
But on an individual basis, if we do stuff that our houses don't burn up, then we don't have these horrible, as individuals, we can all do better to prevent these catastrophes. Because
Right.
if there's a catastrophe, insurance rates are going to go up. It's just
right. But it's going to take 10 or 15 or 20 years to prove to them, to build up the history of no fires for them to begin to have faith in everything we've done.
But that's why.
Yeah, but at the same time, I wanted to mention that, there was a letter, I think it was in 2022. I'm not sure if I got it in 2023. I mean, I passed the fire inspections, which, believe it or not, they don't come out to every home. There's
No.
a certain kind of list,
No,
which
no.
is unfortunate. But they do come to my home. And I got a letter, which I've kept, and I used it in my, for reapplying and whatever. I don't know if it was my homeowners or Fair Plan or whatever. I used it as evidence for my, Max Kramer knows this better than I do, but that's who I work with, for evidence that I had met the brush clearance and tree clearance and all of those requirements for the counties, for the fire department. And that was a letter from the fire chief. And at that time, I think it was Maroney, who's now still the fire chief. So it was either 2 years ago in 2022 or 2023. And it was a letter to me at my house that said, thank you very much. You have complied with yada, 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 yada. And I had never received a letter like that in my life. So I was wondering that if the fire department and the chief are continuing to send these kinds of letters, instead of saying you haven't complied, sending the letter that confirms that you have complied with the fire department standards. So I don't know if there's anybody left here on the Zoom in terms of fire department, which would be the ones, but it came out from Chief Maroney a year or two ago.
Wow. Has
Does
anyone
anybody-
else gotten that? Wow. It sounds like a good
No,
thing.
I haven't gotten any letters pro or con. You just get the one brush clearance notice. And
No, I got a letter from the
Wow.
chief saying,
Oh, yeah.
wow, you did
Well,
this, you're
well, that's a
compliant.
good.
Yeah,
A love letter.
yeah, I loved it.
Okay, great. No, that's interesting, Susan. I'll follow up on that. I'm curious about that. But
Thank
we
you.
do want to wind down before we just get cut off. So I wanted to take a moment to basically just say thank you to everyone. If you have any questions, you know who to follow up with. Ryan's put all his info in the chat. Ryan, amazing. A++, like absolutely excellent. You just
Happy to do it
rock.
anytime,
And I
any
love those
place.
musical references. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you everybody who showed up. As always, you guys make this community great. You inspire us all to work really hard to
Oh,
try
wait a minute. Dorothy has a raised hand.
What happened?
Hi. You know, I
Dorothy
can't
has a
get I got a new computer and I can't get my video to work. But I really enjoyed this presentation. I think my house is pretty good, except I got to get rid of the mulch and put gravel by the side of my house. But I just wanted to congratulate Susan Isman, and Susan and I are both now on the Central Committee of the LA County Democratic Party. And I know so we're here to serve. I mean, I always considered myself, I've been your rep and been elected for many, many years. And I just want you to know, if you have a problem that you think any government agency can help you solve, you need to call me or call Susan. We have direct lines to a lot of people. We can get through and we can get you help. We got help for getting the road open. We get help for a lot of things. We had Frontier shut off on my road and a couple of phone calls, and miraculously Frontier fixed their pole and everything went back on. If you're going to have a power shut off and you have somebody sick in your house, let me know. Let Susan know. We can help out. That's what we're here for. That's what we're elected for. We're not just here being cranky members of the community. We actually have access to people who can help out in an emergency. If you have an issue, constituent services is a very important part of being a state senator or an assembly person or your supervisor. So just let us know. Let me know or let Susan know, and we will make the calls that we can make and talk to the people we can talk to that you wouldn't be able to reach. You don't even know their names.
Dorothy, you said the organization so quickly, but this is the Progressive Democrats of the
Oh, this is actually Los Angeles County Democratic Party Central Committee. I would also announce that we are having a Progressive Democrats of the Santa Monica Mountains, which is our local Democratic club. We will be having a meeting on June 29th at the library from 11 to 1, and our George Gascon, our district attorney, will be there. And I know a lot of you have questions about crime and what's going on. And there's been a lot of lies and a lot of misrepresentations of George's positions and what he's done, because he kind of walked into a booby trap.
All right. We don't want to get too far down a separate road. We want to wind down the meeting for people.
All right. So, but anyway, if you want to meet George, if you want to have questions about crime,
yes.
I'm going to see if I can get Jackie Irwin there, Alan Minsky from Progressive Democrats of America, the chair, the executive director. He will be there.
She's running for
what
election
we're
this year.
doing
Highly
to
motivated.
elect Democrats and elect good Progressive Democrats.
Excellent. Thank you, Dorothy. If you need her, just put your information in the chat and we'll send it out. All right. Time to wind down the meeting.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and We're going to sign off now. Just Breet and Stacy are hosts.
45 minutes.
All right. Fabulous. Okay. Bye, everybody.